Man, this is ugly. Okay. Try to ignore it. Slide your bead in place just to get an idea. It's gonna wiggle around more than likely, see? But that's not an issue right now. If you want to first, before you slide this on, you could add in this piece. It has a technical name. I cannot think of it at the moment for some reason. It'll probably come to me at some random moment, but squish. Okay. Just decide how wide you want it, or how long you want it, I guess. And cut it. Just a little rectangle. Grab your sword and just lay it in place where you want it. Stick it on there and rotate it around until it meets. And carefully clip it off. And do the same thing, close it up on the end. And on the other end, you might need to pinch the other side a little. Since you just wrapped it around, it's probably rounder than the other side, so you can just pinch it a little bit so it can match. And you can turn it and look down and, you know, look at it this way to try to make sure it's even. But this will be able to be sanded too, so it's not that big a deal. Okay, but it's in place. If you want to do anything else to it at this point, you can. I'd wait until you've gotten at least through the next few steps. That way you don't accidentally squish it. But now we're going to go ahead and slide on our flat bead. Okay, and push it, line it up, make sure it's level with your blade. You can even lay this down if you want, and then push it up until it sticks into the clay. And that will help hold it in place, and then you can hold it up and look and make sure you're level, and, you know, check this way and make sure it's not like that, or make sure it's not skewed this way either. So look at it from the front, make sure it's level, look at it from all angles, make sure it looks good. And then if you need to, take a tool, you can refine it a little bit around it, and you can help squish the clay down into it a little to help hold it in place. If you think you need to, you can add more clay. If the clay is kind of bubbling over it too much, you can just take your X-Acto knife and trim at it a little bit. And then just adjust it until it looks how you want it to look, okay? Getting there, starting to look like something. Still looks a hot mess, but we're getting there. Okay, so looking at this one, you can see the next piece we need is your first bead. Okay, got mine over here in a safe place. And these beads actually have really big holes in them. The holes are way wider, so they rattle around. What you can do to fix that is you can just take a little teeny bit of clay. I'll cut it from this one. There we go. Not a lot. You only need like a little teeny bit. Stick that to the side. And just kind of roll it into a little ball. And then roll out a little snake. Roll out a little baby snake. I'm gonna make it longer because then I'll have it to use for the other one too. All right, really thin, like this. And stick it on here. If it will stick and not stick to your fingers. Stick it on here. I'm using such a small piece because you could use a bigger snake than this, but I'm using just this little bitty one so that it won't show. Just to give me a little bit more control. I mean, if it squishes out when you put the bead in place and it does show, that's fine. I just like to use just a little teeny bit, just enough to give the bead something to stick to. And to help hold it in place so it doesn't rattle around. So you can take this, and then if the bead you used for the guard has like a big hole in it too, you can actually push some of it up into it like that. And that'll help keep that in place too. But you can still see a little bit of the clay sticking out there. Take the bead and slide it all the way up into place. And do the same thing, just kind of rotate it, make sure it's lined up properly. And stuck really good so it doesn't fall back down on you. After the next step, I won't be able to fall, but, and then too, while you're looking at it, you can decide if you even like that. So I'm looking at it, I'm not sure I like the round shape. So I could go and look in the bead stash and see if I've got something else, which I know I do, that would fit here. So like I could use, I got lots of check beads. A fire polish bead would work really good right there. The only thing that's your concern is the hole in it big enough to fit here. If you got a large seed bead, that works too, actually. Anything, as long as it will fit onto your music wire. Alternatively, you don't have to use these metal pieces at all. You can build these. I'm just showing you like a quicker method that doesn't have quite as much actual sculpting. But if you want to sculpt your own pieces, you can very easily make your own guard bead and just slide it on the same way. Or you can just build it directly onto your wire. I probably wouldn't, but there's a few different ways you can build something like this easily. But anyway, before I get too sidetracked, now that that's on there, you just want to do the same thing again. And it's really just to hold it in place. Because, as I said, after the next part, it won't be able to come off anyway. So, let's take the same little snake, if it will stop sticking to my hand, thank you. And do the same thing, just wrap it around directly up underneath of that bead. And I'm going to actually take this and since this hole is so big, just kind of stuff it. And that'll keep it from moving while you're working. Okay, so now this next part will keep it from sliding off at all. So what we're going to do is take a piece of the foil tape from before. So right here. and you want to just, you can cut it, you can tear it, doesn't matter. Wrap the rest of it. If you have a bead with a really big hole in it, like I said I do. Like these, I know I can wrap this once and this bead will still slide on. If you have a bead with a smaller hole in it and it won't fit, just leave, you can measure, and however big your bead is, leave that much space untaped. That way you know you'll still be able to get that bead on. So you could just take your ruler, using a 6mm bead, so you can just measure 6mm. I'm just gonna eyeball it. That could be close enough. Okay, take your foil tape and wrap it around. You can wrap it once, you can wrap it twice. Not that big a deal. Okay. Also, I should tell you too, for this part, if you wanted to, you could really use beads for this entire handle. So just like keep stacking them up. Like if you could find some that were smaller than this one, you could just keep stacking them up until you make the whole handle for your sword. I just prefer to do it this way. All right, and just make sure it's wrapped good. Spin it around, okay. And then you can check your end and make sure you still have enough space. And I've got exactly 6mm. And then you can slide your other bead on. See how it's lit all the way? So I could wrap it more if I wanted to, but don't have to. Next thing you want to do is you can measure again. So you can measure the tape, or you can just tape your clay. And we're basically going to do the same thing with the clay that we just did with the tape. And that's lay it on there and wrap it. This looks like it's already pretty much the right width for that. So I'm just gonna trim it. Because I have a little lump on it. Okay. And just butt it up right underneath that first bead. If it's not sticking, and it's probably not gonna want it to. It's not gonna wanna. Get your liquid clay out again. And coat your tape, just like before. Make sure you have enough to avoid nightmares. And cover everything. It's okay if you get it on the bead a little. It won't hurt anything. You can clean it off later. Okay. And then just put that on there. Wrap it nice and tight. Just make sure you do wrap it nice and tight so that it doesn't come off. And then, because you don't want it to get baggy again or have air in there. So, you can wrap it however many times you like. I usually will just wrap it once and then cut it. And then if I want a thicker handle, then I'll go ahead and wrap it again instead of just going round and round, because I just want to make sure that everything is secure. And then just roll it back and forth, and that'll round it back out and smooth it out very easily. Okay, and that's what you got. So now what you want to do is at the top of this, you can press it into your bead a little bit. If you want it to blend in, you can add more clay underneath of it to do that. Or you can even put an indent there if you want. This point is really just up to what you want to do design-wise. And make sure your bead is sitting how you want it to sit. You might look and see that it's further forward or backward than you might want. So you can just change that. Okay, so for this one, when we put our little snake of clay up here at the top, on this sword, I actually came back in after and see, made that wider. So I put another, not a snake, but I sliced a piece off one of these little rolled out flat pieces and then wrapped it around. And then that gave me something to stick the crystals to. And then I just stuck them all the way around. So that's another thing you can do for design. You can do it down here too if you want. I just didn't do too much down in the handle area because I just wanted to make sure there was still enough room. But then you can see once we put this bead on, I did the same thing and just did it all the way around. And it helped to make a smoother transition between the roundness of the bead to the bottom. And then before, when I was saying that you don't have to worry if your wire sticks out a little, because you can just stick a little bit of clay on top of that. And then since I didn't want just a lump of clay, I just stuck another crystal there. Okay, let's show you. So now that that's wrapped, we can go ahead and find our other bead. And you don't have to actually put anything down here at all. You could just have this clay go all the way to the bottom if you don't want another little piece here. You don't have to have it. Or they don't even have to be the same bead. You can use a different shape if you want. Okay, now you just slide it on. And you really just want to slide it on until it's even with the wire. So it's completely flushed with the wire. If the wire sticks out a little bit, that's fine. You could even file it down later, or you can just add more clay to bump it out. It's up to you. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this back off a little. And since this bead is so big, you can either put a little bit of clay around this wire just to bump it out, or you can wrap more tape around if you need to. You might not need to. If your bead fits that wire perfectly snugly, then you don't have to do anything. But if you just want a little extra security to make sure it's not going to move, then you can just wrap a little thin layer. fill it in. Just gonna twist the bead on and help squish it inside. That's better. And just push it into place. And any that's squished out, just smooth it back out like this. Okay. Now that helps keep it from moving around on me. So I'm just going to take still a little bit more. And just going to do little bits at a time and squish it in there. Just use the knife and kind of spackle it in. Pick up, darn it. Okay. Just be careful if you're holding it like this not to squeeze too hard so you don't mess up your handle. Okay. And you can keep doing this until it won't take any more clay. That way you know it's good and full. But if it starts to overflow, then you can just take the knife and scrape the top off so that it's nice and even with the end of it and you don't really see it. Okay. So now we've got our sword. Our nice, neat guard and handle area, and our hot mess blade, which I keep wanting to mess with. I'm just not used to things being this lumpy, but there's nothing we can do until it's baked.